you everyone please join me in Gassho as I recite the words of our founder, Master Shinran Shonin. When we say Namo Amida Butsu, the Buddhas of the 10 directions surrounding us 100-fold, 1,000-fold, rejoice in and protect us. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I will do my best to not fall asleep while I give you my Dharma talk today. Hopefully, you all can remain awake as well. I hope I don't have bags under my eyes. Reverend Cindy and I just returned from Japan on a Thursday, and needless to say, the time back has been a little bit rough in terms of the jet lag. Waking up or going to bed at 9:30, waking up at midnight, feeling like I had slept for like 6 hours already, but in reality, it's just only been 3, and then being wide awake and not being able to go back to bed or sleep until 4, and then waking up again at 7 to have to feed the cat and then to get ready for service. So I'm really hoping that in the next few days, my body gets back to normal in terms of the time difference. But needless to say, it was a wonderful trip, and I will definitely go more into the things that we did and the activities that we participated in while we were in Kyoto, Japan, and you can see that when we go downstairs in the social hall. But I would like to focus on the Gosandai, or the quote that I did this morning, coming from Master Shinran Shonin's Wasan, or poems on the Pure Land. And this is on the benefits of the present. So once again, I quoted, when we say Namo Amida Butsu, the Buddhas of the 10 directions surrounding us 100-fold, 1,000-fold, rejoice in and protect us. This is one of my favorite quotes from Master Shinran because it really emphasizes his real deep appreciation for the Nembutsu way, or saying Namo Amida Butsu. There are many wonderful and excellent Buddhist practices out there. Zazen is an excellent practice. Sitting in meditation and counting your mala beads is an excellent practice. But for myself, I for one am so grateful for the Nembutsu, or putting my hands together and saying Namo Amida Butsu. Now, this quote might be a little bit fantastical in nature, right? And especially in a Judeo-Christian society like we are in the United States of America, we might have this notion of, when we say Namo Amida Butsu, there's these like angelic, like angel beings that are like protecting us, right? But this is actually not what Shinran Shonin is talking about here. Okay, so yes, there are many Buddhas of the 10 directions. Okay, and when they say rejoice in, or surrounding us 100-fold, 1,000-fold, rejoice in and protect us, they're not talking about the supernatural ability to to be protected from harm, right? So again, right, saying Namo Amida Butsu doesn't guarantee that, when I get in my car, I can drive as recklessly as I want and nothing bad will happen to me, right? But if anything, when we say Namo Amida Butsu, we are receiving wisdom and compassion from the realm of the Buddha. So when you think about it, Namo Amida Butsu is the element that reminds us to drive safely. Namo Amida Butsu is the element that reminds us to take our time, to be patient, even though I'm terrible at patience, or to try to see things from another perspective, realizing that Namo Amida Butsu is here for us and solely for the benefit of us. In today's society and in today's political climate, there is so much division, so much anger, so much even hatred. It is very, very sad. However, when we say Namo Amida Butsu, it is able to, in a sense, relieve us of that anger and look towards the realm of compassion. We get angry at people a lot, and we really sometimes lose patience for others. But Namo Amida Butsu is there to remind us that, guess what? We are human too, and we are not always right. One of the best examples of this, I could say, is during my time in Japan. March in Japan is a very busy tourist season. I mean, now the sakura are beautiful. They are beautiful to see. So if you can go to Japan and see the sakura, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous sight. However, the caveat is you're also going to have to put up with many other foreign tourists as well. And I'm a foreign tourist as well. You see, and what's interesting too is when you go to places like Hiromizu-dera and you see people dressed up in kimono, right? And in like, you know, the men's kimono, hakama, all those traditional Japanese clothing, chances are maybe 90% sure that those folks wearing those garments are not Japanese. And the funny part is we were standing in line one time, and there were these two young women in front of us who were wearing kimono, right? And we were standing in line for tsukemen, and I was a little confused because I thought for a second that, oh, you know, we just stand in line and we wait our turn and we go into the restaurant. However, I didn't realize that, oh, actually, we have to go into the restaurant first to pay the machine to get the ticket and then line up. But to confirm this, right, I tried to talk to the two women in front of me who were wearing kimono, and I started talking to them in Japanese. すみません、まずは切符を買って、後で並んでですね。And their response was, sorry, no Japanese. And I was, oh, English? They go, yeah, English is fine. So it turns out they were Chinese, and the common language we could speak was a little bit of English. But again, right, like these are the assumptions that I made, right? I'm in Japan. Naturally, everyone here must speak Japanese. Not necessarily the case. The second day of staying at the Tokyo hotel, I saw a huge line of people, of tourists lining up for the breakfast buffet. And Reverend Cindy and I were saying, forget it. And we went to the Japanese Wateishoku place instead. And it's a very chaotic time. And sometimes I lose my patience too. Because after a while, some of the tourists who were staying at the Tokyo hotel could kind of pick up that both Reverend Cindy and I could speak Japanese, but could also speak English. So the tourists started to latch onto us a little bit, going, oh, you speak English. Can you help me? Da 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 da. Can you help me? Da 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 da. Can you help me do this? Can you help me? Oh, can you tell me where this is? Can you show me where this is? Right? And you know, for the first couple of times, we were like, sure, of course. But by the 8th, the 9th time, we were like, okay. And so it got to the point where Reverend Cindy and I, this is kind of funny, but when Reverend Cindy and I were actually inside the hotel lobby, or we were in Kyoto Station, with tourists flooded galore, right? We would speak to each other in Japanese so people wouldn't know that we spoke English, so they wouldn't come up to us and ask us these questions, right? But again, that was coming out of my own frustration and my own ego-ness, and realizing that not everybody has the same language capability as I do. Now, there's a lot that I can say about, going and visiting Japan. There's a lot that I can say about, our own assumptions or our own egos when we go to foreign places. So for all of us here, and for all of us, who might be planning a trip to Japan, I would like to send you all with a reminder that once you are in Japan, you are no longer in America. So let's remember this, right? You are no longer in America. I think the sad thing is that when foreign tourists sometimes go to Japan, they kind of expect the Japanese to act the way that they're used to, right? They kind of expect actually that their surrounding environments are going to be familiar the same way that they're comfortable with in their own country. And I certainly experienced some not so nice words from some Australian tourists who were saying not so very nice things about their tour guide. It wasn't a very good feeling. Yeah, they were complaining about her lack of English capability, and they were also complaining about how, she told them that, after an event that they should take a taxi, but that doesn't save them money. And, again, right, but, again, right, these types of situations can cause possibly, and especially within myself, a lot of resentment and anger. But going back to the quote, the Gosanda, right? Placing my hands together and saying, Namo Amida Butsu. It helps me to realize that we are all human, that I am not perfect either. I am certain that there were plenty of times in Japan that I might have overstepped my bounds or done the, not so nice, or tried to play the American card, for perhaps. But that being said, Namo Amida Butsu is here for us to realize and truly realize our humanness and accept that. Now, this doesn't mean, right, I say this every time, this doesn't mean that we give into our base desires and just do whatever we want. But at the end of the day, and as much as I may complain about tourists sometimes, I often forget too, I'm a tourist as well. I'm just as American as all of you here. I am just as American as any American who's never been into Japan before. And this is because I was born here and I was raised here. Yes, I may understand the culture a little bit better. Yes, I may speak the language where I can definitely get around easy. But that doesn't mean that I'm better than the average tourist who doesn't speak Japanese. And this kind of realization and this re-resolve to this feeling of compassion, that's what Namo Amida Butsu is for. That is what reminds us day in and day out to stop and have our self-reflection. Namo Amida Butsu is solely there for our benefit to help us realize our true selves. Our true self sometimes might not be very attractive, can be ugly, but it can also be beautiful. It can be compassionate. We as human beings are capable of great acts of kindness, wisdom, and compassion. We can be capable of some very dark things as well. And sadly, when we look at today's world and society, we see a lot of that going on. That doesn't mean that we give up and we don't embrace and we don't do the wisdom and compassion aspects of our life as well. So for all of us here, excuse me, for all of us here who are planning a trip to Japan or going to Japan at some point, remember that Japan is not America, but also remember to be patient with yourselves. Also remember to be patient with others. I certainly needed to learn that lesson when I went back to Japan. Not everyone starts off as an expert. Not everyone starts off knowing the language of Japanese. And that being said, not everyone is as far along in our knowledge of the country as we might be. That doesn't mean that we excuse bad behavior or that we, maybe if we see a foreign tourist who speaks English sitting in a chair on the bus when a senior woman is standing next to them, that we don't, get up and say, you should actually get up out of your seat so she can sit down, right? We try to do things gently. And this is also an aspect of Buddhism as well. This is why Namo Amida Butsu is so important. Because as deep and profound of a teaching and a Buddhist act that Namo Amida Butsu is, when we put our hands together and say it, it gives us the Dharma also very gently. And this is, I think, the best way that we can reach people. Not by shoving things in their face, and I'm very guilty of that sometimes, throw the book at people, but gently receiving it, receiving compassion and kindness, very graciously giving compassion and kindness. This is what Amida Buddha does for us. So when we say that the Buddhas of the 10 directions surround us 1,000-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold, rejoicing and protect us, it's talking about this gentle wisdom and compassion that is gently given to us on a day-to-day basis. And once we recognize this, we place our hands together and say, Namo Amida Butsu. So I certainly hope that all of you here in the Hondo today get to go back to Japan and experience a service at Nishi Honganji sometime. I really, really hope that it's a possibility. And in that regard, I certainly hope as well that we are able to do so with as little stress and as little hiccups as possible. But they will happen. Stress will happen, anxiety will happen, hiccups will happen. And then when that does happen, we place our hands together and say Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to me today. In closing, will you please join me in Gasho as I once again recite the words of our founder, Master Shinran Shonin. When we say Namo Amida Butsu, the Buddhas of the 10 directions surrounding us 100-fold, 1,000-fold, rejoice in and protect us. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida